Welcome to Forbidden Texts. What you are about to see may shock you. It may surprise you, but will definitely challenge everything you thought you knew. Stick around until the end to discover the forbidden knowledge that they don't want you to have.
Some people wake up to a completely new reality overnight. Others stay trapped in the same cycle for decades, never questioning, never breaking free. Why? What separates those who awaken early from those who never do? Most people assume it's random fate, luck, or some cosmic roll of the dice. But what if there's a hidden reason? A reason that determines who wakes up first and who stays asleep the longest. Welcome to Forbidden Texts, where we explore ancient knowledge and forgotten wisdom. Think about this. If you're watching this video, something inside you is already shifting. Most people wouldn't even click. Others spend a lifetime in comfort and never wake up at all. It's not random. It's not just meant to be. There's something deeper going on. And in the next few minutes, we're going to pull back the curtain. First, let's define what we're actually talking about. What is a spiritual awakening? And how do you know if you've already started yours? A spiritual awakening isn't just some feel-good moment of enlightenment. It's not a peaceful experience where everything suddenly makes sense. In fact, for most people, it's the opposite. It's chaos. It's the moment when your old beliefs, your identity, your sense of reality all start to crumble. Things that once felt solid suddenly feel like an illusion. The job you thought you wanted, meaningless. The relationships you depended on, fake. The world around you, a carefully constructed lie. That's why awakening is so painful, because it forces you to see through the illusion you've been living in. But how do you know if you're experiencing a real awakening or just going through a phase? You begin to crave something deeper, something real. Then comes the intense questioning. Everything you were told, everything you believed, suddenly, it doesn't hold up anymore. You start asking dangerous questions. Who am I? Really? Why am I here? Is there more to life than this? And once those questions start, there's no going back. Your perception begins to shift. You start noticing patterns. You begin seeing through deception, whether it's in society, relationships, or even within yourself. You realize most people are operating on autopilot. But you can't unsee the truth. Then comes the hardest part, the collapse. This is where most people panic. Everything that was built on illusion starts falling apart. The ego fights back. Fear creeps in. Some people turn away, retreating back into their comfort zone. Others push through, fully stepping into the unknown. This is the real test. So why do some people go through this years before others? But before we get to that, let's break down the stages of awakening, because whether you realize it or not, you're already somewhere on this path. And where you are right now determines what happens next. Awakening doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds in stages, and each stage comes with its own challenges. Some people get stuck in one stage for years, even decades, while others move through them rapidly. Where are you right now? Stage 1, the dark night of the soul. This is the breaking point. The moment when life as you knew it falls apart. For some, it's triggered by loss of a loved one, a job, a relationship, or even their own health. Others experience it after achieving everything they thought they wanted, only to realize they still feel empty. It's a deep, existential crisis. Nothing makes sense. Nothing feels real. You feel disconnected from the world, from yourself, from everything that once mattered. Most people fight against it. They numb themselves with distractions, alcohol, social media, meaningless relationships. Anything to avoid facing the truth that the life they were living was never truly theirs. You realize the system you were raised in was designed to keep you asleep. That your beliefs weren't really yours, they were programmed into you from childhood. You start seeing how society conditions people to follow rules without questioning them. You recognize the lies in the media, in history, in the way the world is structured. It's overwhelming at first. You feel like you've been living in a prison without walls. But then, something clicks. You start to detach from the illusion. You begin to see clearly for the first time. At this stage, many people isolate themselves. They feel disconnected from friends and family who still live in the illusion. Conversations feel shallow. You no longer relate to the same things. This is where most people make a critical mistake. They think they're awake, but they're not. Why? Because there's still another level. You begin to feel connected to something greater than yourself. Your perception shifts. Time feels different. Your thoughts shape your reality faster than ever before. You feel a pull toward your true purpose, something beyond money, status, or validation. But here's the problem. Most people stop here. They awaken just enough to realize the system is broken, but they never take the next step. They never uncover the one hidden factor that accelerates the entire process. And that's exactly what we're going to expose next. Why some people awaken faster than others and how you can use this knowledge to break through to the final stage. Why do some people wake up years before others? Why do some never wake up at all? The answer isn't what you think. It's not intelligence. It's not luck. And it's definitely not random. There's a hidden factor that determines who wakes up first, and once you see it, everything changes. Most people believe spiritual awakening happens when you're ready. That's a lie. People don't awaken because they're ready, they awaken because something forces them to. There are 3 key triggers that determine how fast someone wakes up. It's because not everyone is starting from the same point. Some people are old souls. They've been through this before many times. And on a deep level, they remember. This isn't just spiritual theory. Studies on past life memories in children have shown eerie accuracy when recalling details from lives they never lived. It's as if some people carry knowledge over from their past experiences. So what does this mean? It means some people wake up faster because they've already done part of the work in a previous life. But what if you're not an old soul? Does that mean you're doomed to a slow awakening? Not at all, because the next 2 triggers can override everything. Trigger number 2, trauma and adversity. Have you ever noticed that the people who awaken first are usually the ones who have suffered the most? Why? Because suffering forces you to question reality. It breaks down the false sense of control that most people cling to. It rips away the comfort of ignorance and leaves only raw truth. This is why some of the most spiritually awakened people have the darkest pasts. They didn't wake up by choice, they were forced into it. But there's one final trigger, one that's even more powerful. One that can accelerate awakening without needing pain or past life wisdom. Trigger number 3, the biological shortcut to awakening. This is where science meets spirituality. Certain people's brains are literally wired for awakening. Research on mystical experiences shows that altered states of consciousness, like those achieved through deep meditation, near-death experiences, or psychedelics, trigger massive shifts in perception. Studies have found that these states reduce activity in the default mode network, DMN, the part of your brain responsible for maintaining your sense of self and reality. When this network quiets down, the ego dissolves and suddenly, you experience reality as it truly is. Here's the shocking part. Some people's brains naturally operate this way. They don't need extreme trauma. But what if you weren't born this way? What if you haven't suffered enough to trigger awakening? Does that mean you're stuck? Not at all. In fact, there's a way to activate your own awakening on demand. And in the next section, we're going to break down exactly how to do it. No waiting. No suffering. Just results. Most people think spiritual awakening is something that just happens, that it's unpredictable, uncontrollable, and completely out of their hands. That's a lie. The truth is, there are method-specific techniques that can trigger an awakening on demand. If you know what you're doing, you don't have to wait years. You don't have to go through devastating trauma. You don't have to rely on fate. You can take control. But here's where it gets dangerous. Most people aren't ready for this kind of power. That's why ancient teachings kept this knowledge hidden. So let's break it down. Method number 1. Disrupt the ego's routine right now. Your mind is running on autopilot. It's cycling through the same thoughts, the same fears, the same beliefs over and over again. You wake up, check your phone, go through the motions of your day, and repeat. And as long as you stay in that loop, you will stay asleep. To awaken, you have to shock the system. One of the fastest ways: radical unpredictability. Change your environment completely, go somewhere new, somewhere uncomfortable. Break your routine, start doing things you would never do. Challenge your beliefs, seek out information that makes you uncomfortable. This forces your brain out of autopilot. It destabilizes the ego and creates the perfect conditions for awakening. Method number 2. Enter the void. Silence is the key. Most people fear silence. They avoid being alone with their thoughts because deep down, they know the truth is waiting to be heard. The ego thrives on distraction. That's why people fill their lives with noise, TV, social media, meaningless conversations. It will try to pull you back into distraction. But if you push through, the illusion starts to break. You begin to see reality as it truly is. This is why deep meditation, sensory deprivation, and silent retreats have triggered sudden awakenings in so many people. They aren't magic. They're simply removing the distractions that keep you asleep. Method number 3. Ego death and identity dissolution. This is the final step and the most terrifying. To fully awaken, you have to let go of who you think you are. Right now, your identity is just a collection of beliefs, experiences, and conditioning. You've been told what to believe about yourself since childhood. But what if none of it is real?
A quick message. This space has become something truly special for many of us. A community of people on a shared journey of spiritual growth, healing, and awakening. Your comments and stories inspire me every day, and it's clear there's so much more we can create together, especially since this path can feel lonely at times. That's why we've created a spiritual space on Patreon, a sanctuary for deeper connection, exclusive content, and meaningful conversations with others from this channel who share your journey. Together, we can build something uplifting, authentic, and spiritually powerful. If this resonates with you and you'd like to be part of something bigger, whatever you're going through, you'll find the link in the description or pinned in the comments. Your membership not only helps support the channel, but also helps grow this beautiful community. Let's create something amazing together.
What if you are just a story you've been telling yourself? This is why ancient traditions used psychedelics, breathwork, and extreme fasting, because these methods can temporarily dissolve the ego. And when that happens, and once you experience it, there's no going back. But here's the thing, not everyone is ready for this. Some people awaken too soon, before they're mentally or emotionally prepared. And when that happens, it can be disastrous. Before you attempt any of these methods, you need to know the dangers of awakening too early. Because if you're not careful, it can completely break you. And in the next section, we'll expose the risks no one talks about. The dangers of awakening too soon. Most people think spiritual awakening is a beautiful, peaceful experience. That's a lie. Real awakening, it destroys you. It rips apart everything you thought was true. It leaves you exposed, raw, and completely unrecognizable to your old self. And if you're not ready, it can break you. That's why some spiritual teachers warn against awakening too soon. Because once you wake up, you can't unsee the truth. and not everyone is strong enough to handle it. Danger number one, the isolation effect. When you wake up, you realize most people are still asleep. This is the first painful realization. You don't belong here anymore. Your old friends, you can't relate to them. Your family, they still believe the lies. Society, it feels like a massive, carefully constructed game. And suddenly, you feel alone. This is where many people fall into depression after awakening. They see the truth, but they have no one to share it with. If you're not prepared for this isolation, it can make you feel like you're losing your mind. Danger number two, the spiritual ego trap. Here's the paradox of awakening. The moment you think you're awake, your ego rebuilds itself in a new, more dangerous way. You start thinking, I see the truth, and others don't. You start feeling superior to regular people, thinking they're lost while you're enlightened. Congratulations, you've just built a new ego, a spiritual ego. This is why so many self-proclaimed spiritual people are actually deeply trapped. If you don't recognize this trap, you'll just trade one prison for another. Danger number three, losing touch with reality. Here's the biggest danger. Some people never come back. When the illusion breaks, when you see reality for what it truly is, it's tempting to leave it all behind. Some people retreat from society completely. They disconnect from friends, family, responsibilities. They stop caring about money, goals, relationships, because suddenly, it all feels meaningless. This is where awakening can turn dangerous. If you don't ground yourself, if you don't integrate your experience, you can end up lost in the void. That's why ancient wisdom teaches balance. You're meant to wake up, but you're also meant to function in this world. You're supposed to see the illusion, but still play the game when necessary. If you don't master this balance, you risk becoming detached, lost, and completely disconnected from reality. So what's the solution? How do you awaken without falling into these traps? How do you wake up and still live a powerful, meaningful life? This is the part no one talks about. Everyone focuses on the awakening itself, but integration is the real key. If you've come this far, you're ready for the final step, the real meaning behind all of this. And once you hear it, you'll never look at your awakening the same way again. The truth about awakening, it's not a race. Here's what no one tells you. Spiritual awakening isn't the goal. Most people chase awakening like it's some kind of finish line, like once they reach it, they'll suddenly be free, happy, and at peace forever. That's a lie. Awakening isn't an escape. It's an initiation. It's the beginning of something far more difficult, far more demanding. And the biggest mistake people make, forcing it. Some people become obsessed with awakening. They jump from one spiritual practice to another, trying to break through. They experiment with psychedelics, deep meditation, extreme fasting, anything to get that moment of enlightenment. But here's the truth. You cannot force something your soul isn't ready for. So what's the real secret? Patience. You don't have to rush. You don't have to compare yourself to others. Awakening happens exactly when it's meant to, not a second before. The journey is unique for everyone. Some people awaken early. Others spend decades in the illusion before their moment arrives. Some wake up through deep meditation, others through trauma, and some without even trying. None of it is wrong. None of it is better or worse. Your awakening will happen in its own way, at its own time. But the key is this: when it happens, you have to be ready. Because once you wake up, your old life will never fit you again. You'll see things others don't. You'll feel disconnected from the world you once knew. You'll be forced to build yourself up from the ground, piece by piece. How to embrace your awakening at your own pace. If you're still here, you're already on the path. You're not asleep. You're seeking. You're questioning. And that means your awakening is already happening. So don't rush. Don't force. Trust the process. The best thing you can do, prepare yourself. Learn to balance both. Because in the end, awakening isn't about escaping reality, it's about seeing it clearly and learning how to move through it with power. And now that you know the secret, the question is, are you ready for what comes next? If you've made it this far, something inside you is already shifting. You're not watching this by accident. You're here because a part of you knows there's more. Knows that the life you've been living isn't the full truth. Knows that something big is coming. The real question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Most people will hear this, nod their heads, and go right back to sleep. They'll go back to their routines, their distractions, their comfortable illusions. They'll ignore the signs, silence the questions, and keep pretending everything is fine. But some will act. Some will take this as a wake-up call. Which one will you be? Because here's the final, most important truth. No one is coming to wake you up. Not a guru. Not a book. Not a teacher. You have to wake yourself up. You have to be the one to step out of the illusion. To seek the truth no matter how uncomfortable it gets. To stop waiting and start seeing. And once you do, once you take that first real step, there's no limit to how far you can go. But remember, awakening isn't the end, it's the beginning. And now that you've seen behind the curtain, the only thing left to do is step through it. And here's the final truth: awakening isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what you've always known. Somewhere deep inside you, before the conditioning, before the programming, before the world told you who to be, you already knew this. You already knew there was more. You already felt the pull toward something deeper. But society, it made you forget. It filled your mind with distractions, with fear, with limitations, with stories about who you're supposed to be. It built a cage around your soul and convinced you it was home. Now, you have a choice. You can pretend this moment never happened. You can push this back down, go back to sleep, and tell yourself this was just interesting, but not something you need to act on. Or you can decide, right now, to never be the same again. To stop waiting. To stop playing small. To stop letting fear control you. To step fully into your awakening. What happens next? That part is up to you. No one can walk this path for you. No one can force you to see what you're not ready to see. But know this, once you wake up, the universe starts working in your favor. Synchronicities, signs, strange coincidences that feel like they were placed in your path for a reason. Because they were. Because once you commit, once you truly surrender to this path, you'll realize something life-changing. You were never alone in this journey. You were never meant to stay asleep. You were never meant to follow the script, live a life of quiet repetition, and die never knowing who you truly are. That's why you're here. That's why you've always felt different. That's why, no matter how much you tried to fit in, something inside you kept whispering, "This isn't it." You felt it in the quiet moments. In the way the world around you never quite made sense. In the way the rules seemed arbitrary, the distractions endless, and the deeper questions always ignored. But now, you have a choice. You've seen behind the curtain. You felt the truth pulling at you. And once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. The system, the illusion, the conditioning, it only works on those who believe in it. Do you still believe, or do you finally see it for what it is? What happens when you fully wake up? Here's what they don't tell you. Awakening doesn't give you all the answers, it just destroys the lies. Clarity, power, freedom. You stop seeking permission. You stop playing by rules that were designed to keep you small. You stop living for approval and start living for truth. And that's when everything starts aligning. You begin to meet the right people. Doors open where there were none before. You start creating your life consciously instead of being dragged along by unconscious patterns. Because the ultimate secret is this: the moment you wake up, you become the creator of your own reality. Not a victim, not a follower, not a prisoner of old beliefs, but a conscious being, fully in control of your life. So what now? That's up to you. You can take this knowledge and do nothing with it. Let it fade. Let your old patterns pull you back into sleep. Tell yourself you'll think about it later. But deep down, you already know what happens when you ignore the call. That from now on, you will seek the truth no matter where it leads. Because once you do, everything changes. And once you step onto this path, there's no going back.